What is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and today we're going to be talking about this moon in Taurus while the sun is in Libra. This is going to be happening from today, Wednesday, October 8th, to early Friday morning, October 10th. So let's talk about it. Obviously, if you've been following me for a while, or if you've been following astrology for a while, you know that the moon loves to be in Taurus, because this is where she finds her exaltation. But hold up, wait a minute. We need some context and some flavoring because no transit exists in a vacuum. So yes, the moon does exalt here in Taurus, but we have to look at the surrounding planets to get some context for this moon. Now, in relation to the sun, it is in the 8th house. The moon does not like to be in the 8th house because the traditional 8th house is Scorpio. This is where we can get stuck in the mud, especially with Taurus, being that is, physical Earth, right? It is the fixed Earth sign, and the moon wants to keep moving. It's cardinal. It needs direction. It needs to keep moving. It needs to keep flowing, right? Now we are responding and reacting more to Taurian-like things, right? So our foundation, money, the things that we value, food even. And this is important context because it being in the 8th house means that there are some deep psychological and emotional needs that we need to address. We need to address these deeper attachments that we have, because Scorpio is about attachments. And it's about how do we transform through these attachments that we have. So each one of us has these deep values that need to be addressed. Are we assigning too much value to things that we shouldn't be assigning that much value to? Are we ascribing too little of value to things that we should be ascribing value to? Now, we also need to look at the rulers of Taurus, right? So traditionally, we look at Venus. Venus, of course, is over here in Virgo, at the tail end of Virgo. She's desperately trying to get back home to Libra. She is in the 12th house in respect to the sun. So while she is in a house that she does like to be in respect to the sun, she is still in a place, Virgo, that she does not like to be in. She'd much rather be in Pisces, where she can be the pearl and the clam and be adored and be loved for her beauty. But in Virgo, she kind of fades into the crowd. It's not about the makeup. It's not about dressing up. It's not about all that. It's kind of about more of the ordinary. It's about how can we receive the more mundane gifts in life, the gift of every single day, and not just the beautiful dream in Pisces. She's also opposing Saturn. Saturn, of course, over here in Pisces, retrograde, and Saturn is the ruler of hard lessons. It's the ruler of work, government, business. It's the ruler of rules and regulations, keeping some type of order, if you will. And in Pisces, it doesn't really feel like there's anything really in order. It feels like everything's kind of out of order, especially with Saturn being retrograde. But Saturn at the same time is still kind of this temptress for Venus, because Venus much rather be where Saturn is. Much rather be where Saturn is. So Saturn is kind of promising Venus all of these different things. Come over here, follow this rule, follow this regulation, and I promise I will give you the world and you can be the pearl in the clam. And Venus is like ready to go. It's like, yes, I will follow that particular road so I can get that. But Saturn in Pisces is a temptress because Saturn does not have it all figured out. And in fact, because it's retrograde, these rules and these structures and this order is actually breaking down. So that's the thing about it. This is why you're seeing a lot of people jump onto trains kind of late. This is the Hail Mary, if you will, of people trying to jump onto something to where they can be received and they can be adored, they can be valued, but these structures are breaking down. But Saturn is still kind of tempting. The powers that be are still kind of tempting us in a way, saying no, come over here, eat this apple, eat this fruit, and I promise you, you will have the world. That's what Saturn retrograde in Pisces is doing. That's the dangerous part because, like I said, these structures are breaking down. And it's about how can, it can be very manipulative, especially if Pisces does rule the media. So it can be very, very manipulative in trying to coast us into accepting certain narratives and values that don't actually serve the people. This is why it's super important to go out into the world and to talk to people and to relate to normal people. Venus being here in Virgo, like I said, in the 12th house, respect to the sun. So it takes on a more spiritual component. So while the moon does like to be in Taurus, the ruler of Taurus, Venus, is not in a great place. So it's not really giving the moon a lot of great energy. Let's look at the modern ruler, which is the Earth. The Earth is in Aries, right? And that's the interesting thing about this. I actually wrote an article about this. You could check it out on my Substack that I'm going to be posting at the same time as this video. And what happens on Earth when communication breaks down? When we stop trying to relate to each other? War breaks out. War breaks out, and that's where it is. It's in Aries. The sun is over here, of course, in Libra. And while the sun does not like to be over here, it's trying to find some understanding. It's trying to bring light to where communications have broken down. And because Chiron is here with the Earth in Aries, providing this spice and this flavor, we as humans are experts at the my group is more marginalized Olympics. Every single person and every single person is a part of a group that has been marginalized at some point in human history. And we love to play this game of which group is more marginalized, which group has been more put down, which group has been more subjugated more. And we love to play this game. We've done it over the last 1,000, 2,000, probably 3,000 years as humans. So, as I said in my last video, this moon that we had, this full moon that we had in Aries, was not the release point. It was the inception of the full releasing. So while this moon is in Taurus, we are still releasing. If you only did your releasing during the moon in Aries, it's not going to establish this substantive change, right? So that's the thing about this. We need to release this whole idea that one group has been more marginalized than another, because if you look at the whole swath of humanity and the whole swath of our history, every single person has been part of a group that's been marginalized or hurt or put down. We need to be able to, look, we're all on the same playing field. We're all on the same playing field. And I'm not saying this to try and, justify things that might have happened, or to even marginalize someone else's trauma, because I'm not doing that either. But I'm saying is that we are all on the same playing field, Earth, right? We are all on the same playing field. So how can we actually come together and cooperate and actually show compassion for each other? That's the tricky part about this moon in Taurus. Yes, it is exalted, but is in the 8th house in respect to the sun, which is a house that it does not like to be in, which means that, if anything, whenever the moon exalts in Taurus, while the sun is in Libra, it is probably the weakest exaltation that the moon could possibly have. Because this comes down to, where are the ways that we are hoarding worldly desires, worldly possessions, and we are keeping it away from other people? Where are we hoarding certain values? Because that's what it is. The 8th house is about shared resources and about inheritances. And if this moon is in Taurus, right, which is about money, which is about resources in many ways, and foundations and food even, there are ways that we as humanity have hoarded. Certain groups of people, certain people have hoarded so much. And that's the problem. When you allow your desire to be appreciated and loved and valued to occult your ability to be a selfless servant to other people, that's when you fall into this trap of allowing these worldly desires and these worldly possessions to take over your soul. And this whole idea that pursuing these things is going to lead us to happiness seldom works out. Because all of the riches of kings end up in wills. So we leave these things behind. So that's the thing that we have to look at. These are the things that we're having to release. These are deep psychological, emotional things that we're having to release. So that's just what we're going through with this moon in Taurus. Yes, it's happy. Yes, it's exalted. But we have to look at the flavoring around it. This is like, this is like getting a New York slice pizza, and there's so many places that you can get a New York slice pizza in New York, but maybe you go to the one that has the worst rated pizza. That's what this moon in Taurus is. It's the worst rated moon in Taurus because of where the sun is at. and where the moon is at respective to the sun. So this is about how can we transform and how can we look at the things that we value and ask ourselves the question, am I ascribing too much value to this? Am I ascribing am I ascribing too little value to this? Where am I being stubborn in my ability to transform? Where am I hoarding certain aspects in my life? Where am I hoarding different values and putting it onto this one basket? And am I being a servant to other people? Am I being more selfless? Or am I allowing this desire to be wanted and needed and appreciated to occult, to hide what we're really meant to do here, and that is to serve each other? So that's what we're releasing with this moon in Taurus. I'll come back when the moon is in Gemini and we'll talk about that particular transit. I trust that this message will assist you on your journey today. And until next time, peace.